Hey guys, I'm so excited to have you joining us for this next episode of the Mind Rise podcast with Justin Davis. Justin and I have worked together for a number of years, and I was excited to invite him on to talk about building entrepreneurial communities. Justin is a serial entrepreneur. He came from a background in corporate, working in sales, and then took the leap and started his own business, and it grew like wildfire from there. As an investor and someone who believes in building in communities, I felt like he would be an absolute expert to come on and share with us his journey. And this episode goes even deeper than that, right? I always like to see what's behind the kimono for someone and what got them to where they are, right? Beyond what we see on the outside, beyond that LinkedIn profile, beyond the watch, the car, the stuff. It's really about the journey that it took us to be where we are, who we are, and how we're building where we're going forward. And Justin gives us just that, the behind the scenes view on what it takes to be an entrepreneur and to take a risk on yourself while building the community around you. Enjoy. Welcome to the Mind Rise podcast, the catalyst that takes you from who you are right now to all that you can become.
Well, it's funny. I never thought I'd do a podcast ever. And then you start doing a couple, and it's like, all right, what can we talk about before we actually get in the meat and bones? And so I thought I would talk about my feelings and emotions first.
I think this is perfect. I think this
Yeah,
is great. This is,
totally kidding.
I'm here for this. Oh no, let's do it. Oh my gosh. So, for everyone who's joining us, right? For everyone who's joining us to hear on the podcast today, Justin and I, we've been going back with 2 years now? 2 years?
Two and a half.
Two and a
Yeah.
half. All right. Someone knows our anniversary. It's not May.
I think it was maybe you're right. February of 23, I think, somewhere around there.
Right. So Justin and I have been working for a while, nonetheless. And I'm excited to have him here on the podcast with us, not only because of the growth that I've seen him in, but also the mindset that he has. It goes beyond resilience, but I think it also goes into a space of opportunity, right? Being able to see beyond what's right in front of you and to see, okay, well, what else is there out there? Right? Because right now you wear one of the hats that you wear is the owner of the Leaf Spring Schools at Geist and Pendleton, right?
Correct.
You own schools, right? But it was a windy path to get there, right? And that's not the only hat you wear. So tell us about it. How did you get to where you are right now and why?
Well, it's funny you say that. The hat rack started very small. Uh, I am from Greenfield, Indiana, the middle of three boys. And my hat rack started with, son and then athlete. I was always a runner, kind of full of energy kid. And it's funny, the things you start with can stick with you. And that definitely has stuck with me. But it turned into, I never really appreciated school or liked school growing up. And then it really got serious in college. And I really enjoyed to learn. In college, I would make myself sit in the front row because in high school, I would sit anywhere but the front row and would be on my phone or messing around the whole time. But in college, I really enjoyed learning, and that became a passion of mine. And it wasn't overnight at all, but I began to appreciate how you can change and grow by learning. Um, and so, I got out of college and I sold cars all through high school and college. And then the career I wanted to do for my whole life, my whole adult life was orthopedic sales. And I really enjoyed it. Not everything about it, but I really enjoyed, I've always been like a commission-based person. I really enjoyed the grind. And I think a lot of people don't enjoy the grind, but it meant something to me of not the hours. It's not I worked 80 hours this week and here's my trophy. It's what did I accomplish this week? What did I, in the hours that I worked, how much did I get accomplished? What did I do? What do I have to show for it? And that quickly became, in car sales, it was how do I become number one every month? At the end of the year, how's my income selling cars more than the year before? And that started when I was 17 selling cars. And then when I got into college, or when I graduated from college and started selling orthopedics, it was, how can I become the best associate, which is, it's where you start. How do I go from being, the worst associate, which I 100% was the worst associate when we started, when I started. But then it was how do I become the best associate? And from there you get promoted to, sales guy. And then so now you're, one of my hats was, in sales, it's car sales and orthopedic sales. And over time you realize that there's more to life. And it was a different path that I took to get there and to figure that out. But then once I really figured it out, I realized, it's not just about working all the time and dating a bunch of girls. And, now it's about, I want to find my wife. And so, got into orthopedic sales and met my now wife, in the first 2 months on the job, which is crazy. And I knew it was different immediately. And her name is Molly Ann. She's incredible. She is incredibly patient, with her husband. But my life changed when I met her, and then my life changed, and new hat as a husband, new hat as a father, and now I'm a father of two daughters, which girl dad is a hat that it comes with shotguns and pistols and things to scare the bad wolves away. Um, but yeah, I think from a hat perspective, you then it became how to spend more time with those people in my life that are super important, which led to apartment building ownership and then school ownership. And then, my drive and passion for growth and learning has now led to two schools and maybe a third. We're working on a couple different projects right now that I'm really passionate about, but the growth there has been incredible. And there are a lot of hats for sure.
Well, and yeah, it's like we all have our LinkedIn resume, right? It's like here's the highlight reel, like here's what I've done. It's like this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And with love, I want to back the train up to being a 17-year-old kid selling cars. I mean, for most of us, like listening to the podcast, would be like, okay, cool. How do I get my 17-year-old like off the couch? But there's always a driver, like there's a driving force that whether it's like we're just afraid of failure or we want it so badly, but like what was it for you that like gave you, as my grandmother would say, like the chutzpah to sell a car? Because it's not like you were selling cars to other 17-year-olds. It's not like, I don't know, you were selling fireworks in the locker room. That's not what was happening. So back us all the way up. We got the resume, but back us up to how it all started.
I think it started even before then. Um, if I really back it up, I can remember shoveling driveways and plowing driveways with my dad's tractor and, trying to, make money wherever I could. And it wasn't like a money thing for me. It was more so, oh man, see, you do this. You get deep quick. You are so sneaky.
You
Um,
knew this was going to happen.
yeah, I should have known better. But like, so my parents divorced really young, and when they divorced, my mom was not, she didn't have a ton of money, and I think one of the things was I realized if I wanted the things that I wanted in life, I had to work for them, and I didn't want to just ask my mother, who I knew wasn't just rolling in cash, to pay for them. And you can pick those context clues up even as an 8 or 9 year old when you go shopping and instead of getting a folder that you want with a race car on it, you get the bland generic yellow folder. And it's because it's 50 cents cheaper or a dollar cheaper. Like you pick up little things when you're younger. And then it's like when you're going shoe shopping, you get the clearance rack, you don't get the new improved Nike or whatever. But I think it probably started earlier than I know. And you were so good at turning over those stones, Bailey. But then you fast forward into, later in life. And I guess I always had the umph, and that's probably where it started. But then when I really started to grow and make money, I enjoyed the freedom that it allowed, and not just money to buy whatever you want, but money to say no to things. And that's probably what I really enjoyed, is to choose what I want to do and when I want to do it. If you're living paycheck to paycheck all the time and you're not saving money or investing, then you have to say yes to the extra shifts or the 60 hours a week, which I've done plenty of, don't get me wrong. But it's nice to be able to find a way to do it when you want to do it, if that makes sense. So I think it's probably where it came from.
Yeah. Did you feel like I don't know. I think that sometimes we have this illusion that there's this one lightning bolt moment when it all clicks and it all makes sense. Or do you feel like it was kind of an accumulation of lessons along the way that you just kept putting into your toolbox?
That was definitely what it is. And I know for certain, I didn't know it at the time, and you never know things at the time. At least I don't think you do. But I know now, and I said this to someone just the other day, where I am now in running a school is a culmination of so many things that happened in my life uh, that have added up and created a jack of all trades. And it was, selling cars and creating the soft skills or people skills, and that's something that you sharpen over time. And then it's how to run a book of business, and that was orthopedic sales and how to manage a very large business and to do it well, and to manage the different people, both the surgeon customers and the people at the hospital and your coworkers, and it all adds up. And then from there it's my apartment building, which was a huge leap for me to take, and it was the big leap that got me out of the W-2, or led to it. That created the work of money management from a building and real estate development perspective, which we've done with the real estate that we have now, the expansion of our current facility, the purchase and expansion of our newest school. And it's like even plunging toilets and fixing leaky sinks, and it's little stuff like that that if you don't just get down and do it, which I don't like to do all the time, but I like to be able to know that I can, because if in a pinch you can fix those things and not have to put your team out for 2-3 days wait on somebody. But yeah, I think it's a lot of the different hats that you wear and the skills you pick up over a long career if you choose to do those things, because you could very easily choose not to.
Right, right, right. But like I hear you, we become a jack of all trades. And when we look back, it's almost like, and I'm sure you've got the little ones, those macaroni necklaces that they make where it's
Do I know the macaroni necklaces? Come on.
right, 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 right. And it's like all the parts of our life, even from the vantage point we sit at right now, which we're not 70, 80 years old and being able to like really have a retrospective, but the vantage point that we have right at this moment is pieces of macaroni on a string, like this experience, that experience, this story, this moment we had to overcome. And from this point, it's like we sit and we look, and you're right. We become a jack of all trades. We've worn all those hats. I almost think of us as becoming like a human Swiss Army knife. And right, what you've shared with me is that it's not just about being a one-man show, it's also about building community, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because yeah, you're 100% right. You can leap tall buildings in a single bound. You've had enough on the job experience, off the job experience, plunging, putting back together, taking leaps, even with the apartment building, like you've shared that, like you did that when everyone else said, bad idea, bro. Right. And then you took that lesson right straight to the bank. But how do we build community from that space? How do we take leaps of faith when the path is kind of uncertain or yet to be paved? What's that look like?
Don't put your needs or wants first. And I had a similar conversation recently and I shared it in the exact same words. If you're putting yourself first all the time, you're very selfish, and you get the narrow blinders on. If you're trying to figure out how to build yourself up and build your team up and build up those around you, and I mean it, and so I run a business owners group, as you know, and it's something that's turned into a passion project for me. And I've really enjoyed not only meeting everyone in the group and doing something different by we're not charging admission. You come and you share and you learn by talking to others in the group. And it's an iron sharpens iron perspective and a vision of, it's not the bragging rights when you're in the group or success or status. It's through real work, growth, execution of, hey, you had a really bad year last year with this, and this. How did you overcome it? You had a great year. You grew, you doubled your growth, you doubled your revenue. How did you do that? And it's having these side conversations. We don't break down every single thing, every meeting, but it's amazing what we accomplish in the hour and a half, 2 hours that we're there. And we're all sharing, and there's guest speakers coming in to deliver their oomph and their why. And, that creates gasoline for the guys that are there. And then the side conversations, the networking before, during, after, for weeks afterwards, connecting people that should be connected, because there's there's so many different things that they could share and grow from. But yeah, I don't know the secret sauce, Bailey, but I think if you're selfish, you will succeed. But as one, you're fast. What's the quote? Uh, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I really like that quote, and it's true. So I think, yeah, building each other up in the process.
So I hear you, and I also want to acknowledge that to connect on that level requires some level of vulnerability, some level of saying, like, here's where I tried and I failed, or I fell down, or, it's face first in the mud. So what's that experience like? Because, you've been in those rooms, I've been in those rooms when everybody wants to kind of put on their best face, right? Their Instagram face, their Facebook face, whatever. And they want to show their LinkedIn, right? Here's my resume, here's my profile, here's the highlight reel. But in order to create the connections where there's alchemy, the connections where you are going to go far together, it's going to require some vulnerability. And that's not always championed in those networking spaces, right? It's not always championed in those entrepreneurial communities. And a lot of times it's a one-upsmanship. But you've had a different experience. So what's that been like?
Well, I think my experience on having really successful and open mentors, because if it wasn't for those mentors in my life, I would continue looking at the leaderboard, which is sales, and I would have continued focusing on, how do my number one, how do I hit my number, how do I make money, and then January 1, you start over again. And then having those mentors in my life that showed me that there's so much more to do, whether it be, with the multifamily real estate, with business ownership, it's finding a way to grow, right? But to take it back a little bit, remind me, you just said, sorry, I'm blanking. What did you just say 1 second ago?
About the vulnerability, right?
Yes. So thank you.
Vulnerability.
Yep. So my meeting next week, one of the topics I sent out that I wanted everyone to come with one story was share your bloody nose story. Share your failure, because, to your point, if you walk in and you're wearing the Rolex, or you're driving the brand new shiny car, exactly. You do these things and you're showing your success. Where did it hurt? Where did you fail? Where did you absolutely fall on your face? And if you're willing to share that, you're someone that I want to be around, not because you're successful, but because you're sharing the vulnerability that will help me maybe save that bloody nose. I'm gonna get bloody noses, and we all are. But if you trip on a route, on a hike, and then I trip on the route, if I don't tell the guy behind me, that's just selfish. Like, let's really work together to build each other up. Rising tide, right? But I think you're exactly right. Like, the bloody nose stories is what I call them.
Yeah, I love that phrase. I really love that phrase. And you're bringing up two important points, which I really want you to go into for us, is you brought up mentors, which you and I have been talking about since day one of meeting, that you've had an unofficial panel of advisors. Then I also want you to talk about the point, and I'll remember them both, so don't worry. But I also want you to talk about the point that you wouldn't be wearing the Rolex or pulling up in the car if you didn't have those bloody nose stories. Like, nobody gets handed, I mean, for the most part, no one gets handed the Rolex, and they don't get handed the McLaren. Like, that doesn't happen, right? And it's just they haven't earned it. So we got to talk about both.
Well, I think I'm gonna do it backwards, because I'll go backwards. I think those that have the Rolex and the McLaren that didn't earn it, they really don't appreciate it. And I mean that in the sense of, everyone knows when you got your first paycheck, that thing you bought. If you really think back, like your first big purchase, uh, you can, that feeling of appreciation for the hard work that you put in. And it's so funny. My first paycheck was very small, but I bought a pair of blue jeans. And I
Okay.
remember the pair of blue jeans because, whatever, it's $40 or $50. Whoop de doo. But that was the first big thing that I didn't have to ask my mom for, the very first thing. And it was a good feeling. So extrapolate that into an adulthood, and let's say you get a big bonus check. You earn that bonus check and you buy whatever. But I think appreciating those things that you have goes a lot further than having someone hand them to you. But then on the flip side, the mentors, I have over a dozen that I reach out to for different things in my life. And if you don't know how to get a mentor, find someone that you respect, admire, and grab them and say, I'm taking you for coffee. I'm buying you dinner. Let me buy you a drink. Let me take you wherever. And I would really like to learn how you got here. I'd like to take some examples of the success that you've had. How can I help you first off? And I'll reciprocate that. Like, how can I help you in something you're doing? And then in the flip side, I'd love to learn more about what you've done to get here. If you're just asking for things, then people won't give as often. I finished almost every phone call I have, even when I shouldn't say it, it's awkward. Like, what can I help you with? Is usually what I say. And when my wife calls me and asks for what do you want from the grocery store? I'll tell her, and then I'm like, what can I help you with? It's like, I just need the grocery list. Can I go now? Like, so but it's so common that I'll repeat it at the end of most phone calls. But having the mentors has been huge for my success because it's not only someone that can be an example in your life and that likely has done the thing that you're looking to do, whether it is buying a business, getting hitting trophy club, um, buying a multifamily. But it's the same thing we talked about, the bloody noses. Like those are the people that will really care for you. And when you're successful, they will cheer for you. If you're successful and somebody does not cheer for you, they don't need to be around you. Like,
Right. I think that's also an element. Like we talk about a rising tide lifts all ships. And I also want you to talk about being discerning about who you surround yourself with.
there you go, Bailey. You are so good. Um, I've had a lot of close friends in my life, but I never had a ton of friends, if that makes sense. Like there's a ton of people around me, but I've only ever opened up to a couple of really close people. And sometimes you learn by getting that bloody nose or, it not working out in the right way. And I know I've become a lot more picky about who I bring in my life ever since I had my daughters.
Mhm.
And, when I was younger, you can say whatever you want around me. You won't offend me. But if you do something around my daughters, you're done. Yeah, I don't want them to see those things. They'll find them out in life, but if they're finding out, bad scenarios or bad example, um, or hearing certain things, and I'm bringing those people around, I really feel like a bad parent. So I think it goes back to, you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. That is what's funny. The five people I spend the most time with outside of my family are probably all in their 50s, maybe a couple in their 60s, because they're at points of their life that I admire, and I admire, the hard work that it's taken for them to get there. And I really enjoy, and I have tons of friends that are younger too, but I really enjoy spending time with those people because they are very deliberate of what they do with their time. And that's something that I'm very careful of. I start my day early, as you know, too early sometimes, but I'm very deliberate in the time that I spend because if you put something off until 5 o'clock at night and then didn't get your workout in because somebody ruined your day or something added on, I'm really grumpy if I don't get my workout in or if somebody changes the course of my day. But if I work out at 4:30 in the morning, no one's awake to ruin my day. So I get my time in first. Um, but yeah, definitely the being careful about who you spend time with and being deliberate about who you spend time with. If you're in a relationship with someone as a friend and it's not, serving both parties in a way that you feel like you're not just being taken advantage of, it's not a good relationship to be in.
Right, right, right. Well, and you bring up a lot of good points. I mean, around friendship, around mentorship, we have a certain responsibility. We have responsibility, obviously, to our kids and who we're going to expose them to. And I also think that we have a responsibility to our own energy. And, I really want to dive in a little bit more to that concept about building your life, right? And I know that this week I've been talking a lot on social media about time management, and that's going to be the topic for the mastermind group tomorrow. So heads up.
Tomorrow.
Right. Um, but building our day turns into building our life. Right? And in those, there's sometimes in those moments when you're right, like you're plunged in the toilet, like you're on the grind, you're doing the things, and you don't necessarily see what you're going to the rewards you're going to reap later. But let's back the train up to how do you build your day and how does that day contribute to how you want to feel in it and the outcomes that you're able to have based on the way you're spending your time.
Great question. And I think we could take this a number of ways, but most basic, I build my day like I would build a house. The foundation of it is when you wake up. So 4:30 in the morning, alarm goes off. If I'm really, really lucky, I'll beat it by a minute or two, and I don't get the groan from the co-pilot for the early morning wake up. But 4:30, I always go downstairs, chug my glass of water. I take my vitamins and I go to the basement. I ride 20 to 30 miles every morning, well, six days a week. And I get that in because I need that time. I need to reset. I want to wake up in a really good space. I want to make sure I get what I want done for the day. Selfishly for me is a workout. And if I don't get it done first thing in the morning, again, I get grumpy later. And, from there, it's now I'm getting ready so I can get my girls up. And I want my girls to have the best start to their day possible. And if anyone knows what it's like to wake up a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, it's not easy most days. So, we start it. If you wake up frantic because you overslept or whatever, then they're going to wake up frantic because they're in a hurry. So we always start their morning about 6:30, and I cook them eggs. Every morning we have eggs, some really good 28 grain, whatever. My wife's on a really healthy food kick, so it's like really good toast, some avocado, some fruit, and we make sure we give them a healthy breakfast because that is their foundation for their day to be successful. And we all have different needs, but they need some fuel. From there, we're taking the girls to school, get our daily affirmations out of the way, and I enjoy that time, right? So I encourage my daughters to be very independent, powerful young women. And we talk about how, I'm smart, I'm kind, I'm a leader, I'm a good person. And I'm always amazed when we do these affirmations, what my girls say, because it's really cool. But, you know, as far as the day goes, then you obviously go to work, you get home, but we try to have breakfast every day together and then dinner at least 5, 6 days a week together to build that family unit. Because I think it's important to really, if you can, to spend time with your family and show them as a parent what it's like to be a good role model. Because for your sons, your the dad is the male role model in life, and the mom is the soft, loving, warming person. And then I think for daughters too, your mom is their role model, and then the dad is the role model of what you want them to marry later. And I've really tried to take that to heart and be the best version that I can for them as well. And I forget the exact question that you asked, but I think it was around the day, and
Right.
the day
How we
ends
build
with,
our day.
yeah, we build our day. So, and then the day ends with, stories and games. And we huddle around usually the matching game for the 900th time. But we try to start happy and we try to end happy. And then, if we can do that as parents for them, typically my wife and I will start our day happy and end our day happy too, which that helps your marriage too. And you're a good example, and then you're happy because your partner didn't yell at your kids, and I think it's all compounding in how you do your day.
Right. Because, I mean, you're making an important point. It's not only building your day and building your life, but you're building your family, you're building your marriage. And we'll get into, I want to jump over and talk about the school in a minute here, but you're also building the presence that you bring in leadership, right?
And I think that's where you come in, Bailey, because I think about you know what gives me purpose, and as a dad, husband, leader, I don't know. There's a lot of quotes that come to mind and different things that I like to reference. But I heard something the other day. It was, it's not about pursuit of pleasure. It's about the pleasure of pursuit. And I think when I heard that at first, I'm like, oh, cool. It's like a Cadillac commercial, but it's got a little change to it. But I think, if you break it down, the pursuit of pleasure is, this vacations, comfort, ease, and Facebook likes, and it's short-lived. And then the pleasure pursuit is the daily grind, the challenges, the getting uncomfortable, which is, that's sustainable. That's something that you can do to make yourself better, and you can do that every day, which reminds me of the comfort crisis, right? Which I'm pretty sure you told me to read that, and I did it on tape because reading's hard. But the getting uncomfortable, and if you're only working or existing to get to the next vacation, then you know for 6 months of the year you're probably pretty unhappy, and I don't like that. And I think me, I like to get uncomfortable. And for a lot of people, they chase the end result of money or status. For me, it's like I like to solve problems. I like to build things. I like to do hard things. And if you can fall in love with the process, I think the results come anyway. um, yeah.
Right. And it's also that mindset along the way, right? Because it's, as well as I do, it's not going to be happy, happy, happy all the time. But if the intention's there, it almost acts like the bumpers in the bowling alley, right? I'm not going to get strikes every time because I'm starting my day happy and ending my day happy. But it certainly is going to help be a buffer from me getting too many gutter balls. Right. So when we say it's an inside job, like that's the inside that we're talking about, which actually brings to mind a story when we were on the mastermind retreat and we had just cold plunged in the waterfalls of the Last of the Mohicans. And it's February. It's February. For everybody listening, it is February in Asheville, North Carolina. We get out of the water and we're walking uphill. And I don't know, some of us had shoes on, some of us didn't have shoes on. And Justin busts out this, I love hills, and explaining to us where if you say that you love the hills and you put a smile on your face, like what's happening in your brain. And it comes to mind right now because no, it's not necessarily bypassing the reality, but it's deciding what tone of voice do you want to be the narrator of your story.
Well, what you're leaving out of that is nobody wanted to get in the cold water. And I'm like, guys, it's fantastic. You're going to feel wonderful. And we passed 50 people that were wondering why we were in swimsuits, walking to the waterfall. And then what I really appreciated is not only did everybody get in, but most of you got in twice. And you went back for the extra little bit of, all right, my head's under now. And you get the full experience. But yes, on the way back up, it was a mile and a half or whatever it was back to the truck. And we're freezing. And it's like, all right, how fast can we get back to the truck? But it was, yeah, I like hills. I like this. I like this pain that I'm feeling right now, because it really makes, when you're freezing cold and miserable, which by the way, I do either before or after the bike ride every morning, when you're done with it, it makes everything else feel better. Like, if you're in cold water for 5 minutes and you get out, your 70-degree room feels really good. But I think you can appreciate the smaller thing, the nicer things in life even more, and the small problems roll off your back because you've already done something that day that really sucked.
Right, right. That's why I say like it's an inside job. We're always narrating our life every single moment. I mean, even when you get into a fight with Molly Ann or you're having a rough moment with one of the girls, like there's a narrator. There's a narrator in there that's telling you this is good, this is bad, you're failing, you've got some hope here. That we always have that internal dialogue and we get to decide like, what tone do we want that in? What do we want that to look like and what do we want that to feel like? Because it has results that will translate.
And I think going back to the comfort crisis, if you're always comfortable, it's nice, but you don't grow there, right? You don't grow in the comfort zone. You grow in putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. And, that's something that I try to instill in my girls. And it's funny, all three, my wife included, as of Mother's Day, all three have gotten in the cold plunge now. And my 3-year-old's gotten in. My 6-year-old, And I told them, like, because when they get out of the bathtub, they're always like, I'm cold, I'm cold. And I'm like, you're not cold, you're just chilly. And they're freaking out. I'm like, let's go get cold. Let's try that. And they tried it, and now it's like we got out of the bathtub and it's like, I'm chilly. Like, yeah, you're right. Like the extreme isn't there. It's a much more palatable thing. And when it's hot outside, it's like same concept. We'll get them in the sauna next, right? So then when it's hot, it's like, I'm so hot. You're warm, right? I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to share is the extremes that are there. Oh, what's the quote? I heard it on a podcast recently, and I love it. Your hardest thing you've encountered is your hardest thing. If you got a flat tire and that's the worst thing you've ever experienced, like your world is ending because you have a flat tire. But if you've, my brother has a lot of good friends that have lost limbs, in service. That's their hardest thing. Like your flat tire doesn't suck that bad. Like, it's uncomfortable. It is a nuisance. It's not the worst thing ever. But again, I think it goes back to comfort crisis. That's a really good book. I encourage people to read it. Um, and it puts things in perspective.
Sure. And I think it's also relative to resilience. I mean, wholeheartedly, I could easily say that, if I didn't know you, I would think that you were probably made of rubber because you keep bouncing back and bouncing back, right? You show this indomitable will, but also this place of resilience. So I'm curious, like for you, taking leaps, having to take a risk. I mean, there you were. I mean, for all intents and purposes, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were on the top of the world when it came to sales, right? It's like there was no question who was going to be number one. Like you had secured that spot and you would just do it over and over and over again. And so you could, if we had sliding doors, you could still be doing that. So walk us through, like here you are at the top of your game and you're looking around and saying, schools? Like, tell us about that moment.
Yeah, and thank you for the kind words. I wasn't always at the top, but it was a goal to be at the top, and it was because that was my challenge, and that was the mountain that I wanted to climb. The year we took over the school in January of 2023, and I had just gotten a week before rep of the year for 2022, and it was not just a good year, it was a great year, but it was a great year because I had built what 2023 was going to be for my sales job was going to be an even better year. And it was, building that foundation and continuing to build on it. Um, but taking the leap for me, it was about my family. It really, truly was. And I know when you and I spoke in 2023, I went from a place of comfort, which I was very comfortable in sales. I was very good at sales through a career of sharpening that knife, if you will, and then going into something that I knew very little or nothing about. And I remember I never had a problem speaking in groups, and I never had a problem being outgoing. And I found myself struggling to talk in front of, groups of 5, 10, 15 people. And I remember talking to you about it. I'm like, why is this happening? And we broke it down and figured out like, I am not the master of my craft right now. I am vulnerable. I am learning. And it took a while to, after taking the leap I bet it took a year to really get a good grasp on, I knew what I needed to accomplish, and I knew the skills that I had, or I hoped the skills that I had would lead me to, a successful year. But it took at least 6 months to get my head wrapped around everything. And we had just lost the director. The night before I took over, we lost the director. So I hit the ground as the owner and director, which helped a ton in learning the school itself. And it forced me to learn faster. And that probably had a lot to do with the struggles that I was having. And then, as being the owner and trying to reshape a team that was already in place, we were able to start from scratch in a sense of everyone knew what was the demands were prior to me. And then we were able to change that, the demand list or what we were looking to accomplish very quickly. And, within 1 year, the school had gone from no awards to in March at the 2024, which is for, calendar year 2023, the award ceremony, our school won an award for the highest parent satisfaction and highest teacher satisfaction. And we did that by creating an environment. It was special. Yeah, it was special because we created an environment that The parents were very happy. They were getting the service that they were looking for and more. The teachers were really happy because they felt valued and, heard, and we were able to, build them up and provide them opportunities for growth, which is huge because if you're stuck in the same thing, if you're stuck in the same lane, you don't have the growth, right? So provided areas for growth, and now we're able to do that again with this second school and taking a leap with the second school. I lost a teacher to a competitor, which was a bummer because she wanted to become an admin and an assistant director. And when I lost her, I told her, it's like, I'll find a way to work with you again. I hate to lose you, but at least I know I'm not losing you to a competitor for the equal, the same job. She wanted a role that was filled already. And when I opened the second school, I called her and I said, or when I was opening it, I said, I've got a job for you. Would you like to be the director here? And she goes, I'll put my 2 weeks in. And she put her 2 weeks in and she worked for us for a month at my Geist school. And then now she's the director of my Pendleton school. And she's done an amazing job. And it's finding the growth opportunities for your teachers, your staff, your employees to grow and feel valued too, which I think is huge. But yeah, taking that leap was important to me, which it started with family. And I have family at the forefront, not only my family now, but all of our families, the parents in the school at the forefront of my decision-making process to make sure that we're providing the value that we need to day in and day out so that I still have a business that can pay for this small business loan that I have. And so that my family is supported and we're growing for our communities. It's really important.
Right. It becomes its own ecosystem, right? Everything
Oh,
is
great way to when it's going well, you hear about it, and when it's going bad, you hear about it.
facts, absolutely facts. So before I let you go, like, so far, all the macaroni that you have put onto the piece of yarn here of the story of what you can say, like, what would you say are some of those key ingredients to accelerating growth, right? Growth for yourself, growth for others. Because I know community is very important to you, but so is, your personal responsibility. So I'm curious, what are some of those key ingredients?
Well, I'm going to write this down because I want to make sure I touch on these the right way. Uh, the key ingredients for growth, I'm writing down family, professional, and personal. Professionally, putting yourself in the room. And when I say put yourself in the room, I mean put yourself somewhere where you're surrounded by or around successful people. If you're in the same room that you've been in for a long time and you're not seeing the growth that you want, change that room. And whether that means, literally talking to a different circle at the, the cafeteria, if you will, but or find somewhere, find a group, find a friend, find something where you're pushing yourself outside of your bubble to grow. And I think when the growth happens, it can start small, but it's like a rolling stone, right? And it can compound so quickly. So professionally, I would say put yourself in the room, in a room full of successful or more experienced people. Family wise, um, I like that my wife and I push each other. And she went from someone that worked out once a week to now if she doesn't work out 6 days a week, she goes crazy. Like I've created a monster like me. Like we always are working out. But family wise, it's putting my family first, making sure my girls know that no matter what, I'm here to help them, I'm here to support them. But we're going to do things that are uncomfortable too, and we're going to learn new things. So I just got my daughter. I'm not a big sports guy. I'm actually a horrible sports person. I think you know that. But I just got my oldest in golf lessons. And so she's learning now a new skill that she can take with her forever. And as a woman in business, I think that'll pay a lot of dividends later for her. And maybe tennis next, but she does gymnastics and swimming. But I wanted to find something for her that she can compete with the boys because, it's actually why we named our daughters Dylan and Avery. They're gender neutral. My wife never wanted them to be judged by a name on a resume prior to getting into the room. They're going to get in the room and they're going to prove themselves. But I love that vision of my wife. That was my wife's vision on that. And then, so I guess that touches on personal and family, but family obviously is putting your family first. But personally, do something today, tomorrow that makes you uncomfortable. And for me, I start my mornings with a workout and a cold plunge. And what can you do to challenge yourself? For me, like I shared, uh, I was a good salesperson, a good business person prior. I'll give you a plug here, Bailey. Working with a coach. So before I worked with Bailey, before I worked with you, I was a sprinter. And not maybe it was the stage of life that I was in, but I truly think that was the way I was wired. It was give me a goal. I'm going to work hard and fast to accomplish that goal. And it goes back. I was a sprinter in track, and that was the 400 was my race, and it was how hard can I push, and I could do that over and over and over again, but then I would blow up, and I wasn't self-aware enough to know that there is a rev limiter, and it may not be just gasping for air, but professionally it could be, you're grinding and then you blow up and you're irritable, and now you're coming home and you're angry, and now I would say through working with you, I am, and also oddly enough, I'm an endurance athlete now, but I think professionally I'm in the endurance stage of my life thanks to your work of I can go just as hard and still, I'm full gas all the time. But now I can recognize when I feel myself hitting that rev limiter, and you pause, put the clutch in. And it may not have to be for long, but I gather now when that's happening, and I can go further and longer and still hard because I'm giving myself intermittent breaks to reset, no matter how short they are. Um, but because of the work that we've done together, and I think just what I'm trying to accomplish in my life professionally, the putting myself outside of my comfort zone has made a huge difference in the growth that I've achieved and the growth that my family's achieved and where we are now. And the scary part is it's just the beginning. I've got visions for more, and I'll always have my family at the forefront of that decision-making process to make sure that I'm here with them.
Right, right, right. Well, then you have the perfect lead into my last question. What's next, Mr. Davis? What's next on the horizon for you?
Uh,
Where would we see you 5 years from now? Probably 30
well,
now, knowing how you sprint.
5 years from now, I would love to think that my wife and I are managing a a group of maybe 3 to 5 schools. And I would love to get back into some multifamily because I feel like putting that time in multifamily is a great way to, as Warren Buffett puts it, earn money while you sleep. And so I would love to get back into the multifamily space, but I really enjoy working within our communities and giving back to the families, and um, you know, becoming close with the police and the fire, and getting them incorporated with the kids at the schools. That way they've got the big role models in their life. But I think if I can continue down this path and keep doing the schools, I'll be fulfilled, and then get my daughters involved. Have them, work in the schools, have them, start getting outside of their comfort zone professionally too when they're older. But yeah, 5 years from now, that's where we'll be for sure.
Right. Because isn't that what it's ultimately all about? Fulfillment, legacy. It goes beyond, right? Just that first pair of jeans that we buy or watch that we buy. Because mine was a shark watch when I bought my first paycheck. I got a purple shark watch. I rode my bike to the surf shop. I remember this. I hope everybody's listening, like remembers, because that was so important to us then, right? But it's beyond stuff. It's beyond just acquisition. It goes into a space of fulfillment and legacy. Wholeheartedly, like, what are we here for? What's my purpose? What am I doing here?
If I die tomorrow, I hope my family remembers me as a good dad, a son, a father, a brother, and I hope the community, could come around what we've tried to do with the schools to help our little leaders, our future leaders, better their lives, and yeah, I hope we've accomplished that.
Exactly, right? Like we weave ourselves into the fabric of like the communities that we're a part of, to who we're leading, because that is actually what leadership is all about. Yeah, the McLaren or the Rolex is nice, but what's leadership actually about? It's about that ripple effect that we can create within the communities that we serve, the communities that we're a part of, and the communities that we're growing. So thank you so much for joining us here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Miss Bailey. If I can leave them with one thing, it's the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, you could have.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the MindRise podcast. Check out our show notes for details and to get in on the latest at MindRise. Visit us on Instagram at the MindRise